If 2023 didn't end well and you had a few setbacks, maybe you got some stories rejected, maybe you didn't finish your stories because life got in the way and you were overwhelmed with work, or maybe you got sick. There could be a number of things that happen. Well, this is a perfect time, the first quarter of the new year, to get back on track and to get over those setbacks. So let's talk about how to do that today.
You have a story to tell, but you don't know where to start. Let me show you how to free your story. I teach you how to write and how to dig deep in your soul to release your story and make a difference in the world.
Welcome to the Amante channel. I'm happy to meet you if this is the first time you're meeting me. So let's get on with today's topic. So what I want to talk about are setbacks and what are some of the causes and what you can do to move forward from setbacks so that you can continue along your writing journey. So let's talk first about what might have caused the setbacks that you had last year. And what you want to know is what got in the way, right? So let's say that one of it could have been an illness, right? So if it was something like that, hopefully it was something that it's over now, that you've gotten your health under control and you can move forward. But when it is something like health, we do want to take a look at maybe what caused it, right? Are there things that we can do to make sure that we don't get sick again, like, alter our diet, things like that. So these are mostly things that we can't control, but we can take little steps to try to have a better, healthier year this year so that we don't get as sick, we don't catch whatever's going around, we don't get major illnesses. So we want to control what we can, and what we can't, of course, we just want to do what we have to do to get well as fast as possible. Chronic illnesses, of course, are something else, and it might require you to alter your writing time or make some changes. But I'm just talking about smaller illnesses, things that we can do to eat better, sleep better, have better mental health, things like that. And if you can do that, try to work on that so that you have a better ability to get your work done and you don't have to take those days off, right, to heal or get better. But most of the setbacks that happen, honestly, are not things related to illness, but they are things that we can change, we can control, or things that we can avoid so that we don't have the setbacks. And that's what I really want to focus on. For example, not spending enough time writing because we're doing things like taking care of the dirty dishes, right? Or other household things. Even though those are important, we want to prioritize our writing and not fall behind or not have setbacks because of those type of things. So another thing that may cause a setback is that we're focused on too many things at once. So maybe we have many writing projects and we want to focus on just one so that we can finish it rather than having 2 or 3 projects going at the same time. Other things that might cause setbacks are things like not improving your writing skills, right? So that can lead to rejection of your stories from editors, from agents. And so to avoid those setbacks, that of course they are setbacks because once we get a rejection, it takes a long time to get the rejection, and finally when we do get it, it takes time to send out another query to try to find it a new home, and it's a lot more work, right? So if we can improve our writing skills before we send something out, then we have a higher chance of it being accepted. Something else that could cause a setback is maybe not taking advice from other writers or critique partners. So if you are lucky to have a critique partner, a critique group, or other writers who are giving you advice, try to listen to it. You don't have to do everything they say, but try to take into account what somebody is suggesting or what they're recommending for your story, because it could be something that an agent or an editor may also see and want you to fix later. So if you can fix it before it goes out, that you're, again, reducing your chances of rejection and of falling behind on your projects. Another thing that I found that sometimes can cause you to fall behind is actually not planning and not being organized. So if you don't plan ahead, if you don't have a planner, if you're not setting a schedule, if you're not organized and having a writing time, focusing on having an organized plot, on following a plot, on having a schedule on where you're going to send your manuscript when it's finished, those kind of things, lack of organization, lack of planning can set you back. Before you know it, you started something at the beginning of the year and you're still kind of working at it at the end of the year because you didn't actually set a schedule on when you were going to finish it and how many pages you were going to write, how many chapters you were going to get done. So you want to have a planner, you want to have a plan, you want to be organized, and you want to really attack that plan so that you can reach your goal when you want to reach it. So a lot of times it's what we don't do that makes us fall behind, or that actually put roadblocks in front of us and makes it harder for us to reach our goals. So you want to really evaluate what is it that has set you behind, so it may be some of these things that I mentioned, or maybe other things. These are just examples, of course. But you need to evaluate in your life, okay, what has set me behind? Why didn't I not accomplish the goals that I set for myself in 2023? What can I eliminate, or what can I change in this new year, especially this first quarter, so that I can not repeat last year, but I can actually get ahead this year and accomplish my goal? And for most of you, I'm guessing it's going to be finishing a story, finishing a book, selling a book, something like that. So think about what was it that set you behind, so that you can honestly tackle that and not have the same thing happen this year. If you want to have a better year, there's only one way. You have to evaluate what happened, and you have to set goals to change that. And being honest, right? Also a little grateful, right? So grateful that you learned something, hopefully, from what went wrong last year, so that you can improve it this year and have more success and hopefully sell your book. The more you learn from the problems that you had in the past, the more likely you are to have a way better chance of success moving forward. So be grateful that you had these setbacks, learn something from them, and now let's figure out what we're going to do next. So let's say, for example, that what set you back was a rejection. You spent most of last year writing a story, you sent it out maybe to multiple agents, editors, and you received a bunch of rejections, or maybe just one rejection, right? Then what can you learn from that? Well, hopefully they commented or said something. But if they didn't, if they weren't specific, and not all rejections are very specific about why they're rejecting you, you can take a look at what you think went wrong. So even if you don't get any feedback, if you do get feedback, perfect, use it. If you didn't get any feedback, then take a look at it yourself and try to determine what might have happened. Does it need further editing? Does it need a title change? Does it need, so look at everything from title change to the story itself. Is it flowing well? Is the pacing good? Are the characters strong? And then you can, so that's your first step, right? Is just take a look at it, make changes, reevaluate your work, and move forward. So the second thing I said was to be grateful, right? So be grateful that at least you finished the story, you sent it out, maybe you got some feedback. All of that is positive, because now you have a chance to edit, to make the story stronger, and to send it out again. Another reason that sometimes I'm grateful for rejections, which sounds kind of crazy, I know, is that you want your story to end up with a publisher, an editor that's going to love your book. So if this publisher for some reason rejected it, didn't like it, they probably weren't the right place for your book anyways. They probably wouldn't have been excited enough to get it out there, to sell it, to fight for it within their own publishing house, right? So you want your book to land with someone who's super excited. So even though we don't like rejection, it's painful, we want to be grateful that maybe it wasn't the right place, and the next place, the next publisher where we send it, is going to be a better home for that story. And the third step here is to just send it out again, right? So once we reevaluate it, make some edits, find a new publisher that we think might be a good fit for our story, we want to make sure to send it out again. So you don't want it to just sit at your desk, sit in your computer, because the longer that happens, the more likely that you're not going to send it out again. So you want to immediately get it out there again, and then have it as soon as it's of course edited, so that you can find a publisher that might be more interested in your story. The first two steps, I think, are probably the hardest part. So one of the things that I want to say is that you want to be honest with yourself. So when you're reevaluating whether what went wrong, right? So I'm using the example of a rejected book, but it can be anything. It can be, I didn't finish my story because I spent so much time trying to remodel my house or trying to do something else, maybe work. So there's always a legitimate reason. So I'm not saying that any of these reasons are bad reasons to not write. Like, those other reasons were probably important to you too, and that's why you spent the time doing that. But if your goal is to get your book finished and to really work on that because that's important to you, then you have to be honest on what went wrong, what made you not complete your goal of getting your book done. So let's say that it is, maybe you're just a perfectionist. You really want to have a super wonderful, clean house, and you've spent a lot of time doing that. Maybe you can be a little less perfectionist, have a little dust somewhere, right? And focus more on your story so that you can get that finished. So evaluate where the setback came, what happened. And again, sometimes this is hard because what we don't want to look at, like, we don't want to look at our book and say, what's wrong with it? It was rejected because it's just not right, or it has a lot of problems. But if we are honest and we look at it and we say, yeah, it's actually not ready. It does need more editing. It needs more something. And I'm going to take the time to fix this, or I'm going to ask other people to read my book and get an honest opinion and get honest feedback so that I can go back and edit and change things that need to be changed. And sometimes that evaluation process really is difficult because we have to do a little soul searching, right? So I know that for me, at one point when I was moving from writing strictly romances to women's fiction, I had to really think about, what wasn't working in these romances, or why wasn't I completely happy writing them? And it was because I wanted to write deeper stories. I wanted to write something else, and it required really for me to reinvent myself in a different way. I needed to rebrand myself. It was a lot of work. I didn't really want to do that, but I was already writing stories that weren't fitting into a strictly romance genre, and that was causing me to get rejections. And I had to reevaluate, like, why are these books not selling? Why are these stories not selling? If it didn't need to be re-edited, then what's the problem? Well, the problem for me was it wasn't fitting into the category anymore. It was becoming more women's fiction. I needed to make that change. So sometimes it's whatever it is that we need to change, whatever it is that's setting us back, is something big that we need to do. We need to make some major changes in our household. We need to make some major changes in our career so that we can move forward, right, with our stories, with our novels, with our writing career. Something else, so another example, so for me it was, almost moving from one genre to another. It flowed very well. So there's a lot of romance in women's fiction. So it wasn't something completely different. But you might find that, I thought I was writing romance for women's fiction. I'm really writing more of a thriller. I thought I was writing a romantic suspense, but I'm not really as interested in the romantic part as I am in the suspense part, in the thriller part of it. So maybe I should just be writing strictly that. And so again, if you have to make a major change, like a genre change, then that could be scary. But you want to honestly evaluate what's going on, what is causing you to not sell your books, what's causing you not to want to write your book maybe, and what's creating those setbacks in your writing. Let's talk about why setbacks can be positive. Okay, so what can they do for you? Sometimes it helps us because we can change something that's not working right. So maybe we have unproductive work habits. Maybe we have something that is not a really hard change, right? So maybe it requires us to get up a little bit earlier. Maybe it requires us that when we are writing, we don't have our social media or anything else open. So changing some of our work habits can lead us to a more productive work day, and then a happier you because you're finishing your work. So setbacks can also help you learn a little bit more about yourself. They are challenges. They're little challenges that happen, and we learn how to overcome these challenges. And the more, right, we do that, the more we overcome these challenges and keep moving forward. It helps us become stronger as writers, as people, and it helps us to know that we can move forward, so that when we have rejections, when we have all these little problems that happen, we know that they're just little challenges, and that we're going to get over those setbacks, and we're going to be able to continue. The more you do that, the stronger you become as a writer and as a person, and the less you're affected by these setbacks in the future. Another kind of disguised benefit about setbacks is that they teach us to be patient. So everybody wants to write a book immediately, sell it, and become a bestseller. And this business isn't like that. Right? It takes a long time. And so it teaches us to be patient, to take our time, to try again. If we fail, try again. Keep doing it and keep getting stronger and better. So I think that part about learning to be patient, learning not to give up is, again, something that is valuable for us as writers to learn. Another really good lesson that I think setbacks teach us is that this writing career is not a straight line. There's a lot of twists and turns that we have to get used to. And sometimes we have to actually go backwards. Last year I was driving from South Dakota through Wyoming to get to California, and it was a snowy, kind of a snowy day, and I was in Wyoming at that point, so I'd gotten from South Dakota to Wyoming. I was maybe 20 minutes from my stop. So I'd driven for hours already. Like I forget how many hours I'd already driven. Over 5 hours for sure. And I was this close, right, from my place where I was going to stop for the night and rest. Had my dogs, I had my daughter in my car, and I was ready to stop, right, for the night, especially because it was getting hard to see. There was blizzard conditions and all that, and the road, they closed the roads. So 20 minutes before I was about to reach my goal, the roads were closed, and I was so angry. I had to backtrack. I had to go back like more than 2 hours, pay for a different hotel. And then the next morning try to get around a different road because the roads were still closed, go back through, almost back to the South Dakota border, go around Wyoming, go down through Denver, finally made it to California. So the point is, I did reach my goal. I did get to California eventually. It was later. It was like a half day later, right? It set me behind, but I reached my goal and I'm still alive. So maybe if they hadn't closed the roads, or I had gone through those last 20 minutes, maybe there would have been a problem with the blizzard, right? So this is just a very physical, right? A real example of life sometimes making us go backwards. But if we are patient, if we realize that there are setbacks, that there are twists and turns along the way, but that eventually we can reach our goal, right? It makes us more willing to just be patient and do what we need to do. So with writing, it's very, very similar, right? So we think we're about to reach our goal. We're this close to selling our novel, then something happens. The editor leaves the publishing house. Something happens that you weren't expecting, and then all of a sudden you're going backwards. This has happened to me in publishing as well, where I was with a publishing house. It sold 4 books. They decided to close the line, and all of a sudden I'm not writing for that publisher anymore because now they're not buying those type of books. And so you think you're moving forward and you end up going backwards. And then I sold to another publisher, and I was even bigger than the first one. So just, you never know. Expect the unexpected, expect the twists and turns, and just keep moving towards your goal. Even if you have to go backwards for a little bit and turn around and go a different way, you're going to get there. You just have to remember that it's not a straight line. So how do we get past these setbacks? First, we evaluate what went wrong. Second, we are grateful that the setback happened. We try to learn something from that setback. Third, we make a new plan and continue to move forward, being patient, understanding that there's going to be twists and turns and roadblocks along the way, trying to become stronger because of these setbacks, trying to learn something about ourselves and improving ourselves, improving those habits that maybe are not productive for our writing. And then lastly, just remembering that these setbacks, if you continue to move forward, actually fuel that desire to get closer to your goal. Because as these setbacks happen, you tend to, if you know that you're following that path, even if it's a winding road, you're going to get there. And sometimes having those setbacks along the way makes you want to get there even more. Like, I'm not going to let this challenge stop me. I'm going to get past this challenge, and then when the next one comes, I'm going to get past that one. Okay, so it helps us really sometimes to move forward. If it was easy, if you got published with your first book, it would be wonderful, but maybe you wouldn't have learned all the things you needed to learn about yourself and about you as a writer. And you'll be a stronger writer when you actually do get published. Okay, so I hope this helps. I hope it gives you some, maybe a little inspiration to keep going. Don't let those setbacks stop you, and to keep writing. And hopefully by the end of this year, you'll have the book that you wanted to finish and write last year completely done. I hope this helped you. If it did, please hit the like button, leave me a comment, share this video, and I'll see you again next week.